Welcome everybody. We are going to start in a few minutes. We'll just give people a bit more time to join and we will start in a couple of minutes.
Very nice. I'm always curious where people are dialing in from. So if you want, drop your location in the chat box. I'm dialing in from Barcelona.
I'm London, that side London. Cold and dreary London at the moment. All right, we'll just give it one more minute and then we will start. Don't leave you guys waiting for too long. So we'll give it one more minute and then we will get started. All right, Julie, should we kick off?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. I would say good morning, good afternoon. I don't know where you are, but welcome to the webinar. You've got myself and Julie. We're going to be talking about how you can drive efficient growth with automated FP&A and take you through our products. My name is Ollie Sharp. I'm the VP of Sales here at Abacum. I joined the business about 6 months ago. After a career, I spent 10 years at LinkedIn, and then I built a company called SalesLoft in EMEA, and then joined to help the go-to-market with Abacum. And I'm joined by Julie. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So I'm Julie. I'm currently our Director of Finance and Business Operations. So that means within Abacum, I cover everything from day-to-day operational finance to investor relations, as well as go-to-market and product analytics. Prior to joining Abacum, I had a very finance-heavy background. So I started out in the CFO advisory space, spent a couple of years in banking and venture capital, then moved here to join Abacum. So really glad to be here.
Julie's been very humble there. She actually does much more than she just said, practically runs the company. So we won't say more on that. But welcome everybody and thank you for joining us. So I'm gonna talk to you a bit more about Abacum, who we are, why we exist, and the sort of story so far. I'm not going to bore you with all of that for too long, and then I'm going to hand over to Julie, who's going to take you through our product, what it does, etc. So a bit about Abacum. Our vision is to make every finance team the heroes in their organization. This is key to us. This is really important. I mean, we have our two founders, they're ex-CFOs and CEOs. They've got COOs. They've got a wealth of experience within finance and technology. And they got their heads together and decided they wanted to build the product that they never had when they were in this market space. We're quite unique with that because they've spent time in our ICP, if you like, which is your smaller companies, and they've seen the problems that arise from not having a tool. So we're backed by leading investors such as Atomico, Creandum, and Y Combinator. We're a global company. We've got operations in the US and Europe, Barcelona and London. And our mission is to empower finance teams to make organizations thrive through better decisions and faster execution. Now, in today's world, there's uncertainty across markets, there's increased competitive pressure. Growth at any cost is what used to be. Then it moved to more, sorry, the dog just wants to join in. It moved to more efficient growth. That's what's become key to companies out there. And this is about how you become leaner and everything. And companies have to think and act differently. So because of that, the role of finance has changed massively. So finance, CFO, FP&A, that's all changed. Also, the demands on them has changed as well. So rolling and more regular forecasting has become the norm, and the pressure to spot and react to issues quicker has increased as the stakes have become higher. The CFO's role has become more of a strategic advisor role to the CEO and the board, and that's become a lot more prominent. We see the massive change in that. But to do this, they need to understand how different scenarios are going to impact the future of the business. And they need to make sure that they're making the right decisions to take the company in the right direction. However, it's not as simple as it sounds. CFOs and their teams aren't always able to access the data and insights they're required to do that. So often their teams are spending more time gathering and sorting the data than actually analysing and providing the insights where they can add value. Their teams end up overworked and often doing the parts of the role with the least enjoyment. We speak to lots of people that feel they're doing the parts of the role that maybe are underneath them or just don't give them that passion and the purpose of why they joined an FP&A team. So some of them end up unhappy in their roles, and this is strange at this time because I think a lot more people and companies are caring about people's mental well-being while they're working, keeping them engaged in the business. So with more and more data and more systems holding and generating that data, this isn't simple, okay? Because the visibility, they need the visibility, but there's more data to look at. So CFOs and finance leaders need a real-time view of the business and to be able to easily view things that matter to them, using a single source of truth so they have the faith in the numbers. They need an easier way to do scenario planning so that it can advise on the different outcomes, which one is best and what it would look like if certain things happen, and an easier way to collaborate with their team, but all the other stakeholders within their business and prepare for board meetings and leadership meetings. However, their screens tend to look like this. They've got multiple things open. They're moving things from one place to another within the spreadsheet. They've got hundreds of different versions from each of their teams. Whereas with Abacum, their screen looks like this. It's all done in one place. They can manage the process in one place, etc. So at a high level, companies use Abacum for reporting, budgeting, analysis, and scenario planning. How we do it is, first of all, we integrate your business systems, so your ERP, your Salesforce, whatever you're using. Then it enables you to organize and enhance your data. So standardizing the wording, etc., and building the families of what means what. Defining and modeling your metrics. Then for you to visualize and analyze. Then you can create the collaborative workflows with the different internal stakeholders and within your team, so you can drive accountability across your business, and you can communicate what matters. All of that is done within our system. What we impact, so within the companies that we work with, we impact 4 main areas. So better data, first of all, cleaner and more reliable data with a single source of truth. This is what's really important to our customers, knowing that they have a single source of truth. There's no, people aren't using a different LTV or CAC or where it's pulling from. Time, we save time on manual tasks, but also quicker to notice problems. So you're quicker to notice the problem, but also to find a solution and faster to make the right decision. Our clients tell us that they can report 75% faster or save 25 hours per week with automated processes. We also impact the finance team. We enable them to spend time on the things that have the biggest impact, drive accountability across the business, help the leader hire for the right skills, and also for the team to become the strategic business partners, especially the CFO advising the board. Basically, they become the heroes that we talk about in our mission. And we also impact the company. All of the things above will hopefully have an impact on the company, whether it is reducing costs, becoming more profitable, securing the next round of funding, your EBITDA, whatever it is that is your metric that you are working to. We give you the better visibility, reduce the time, etc. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Julie, and she's going to talk us through with the demo once I work out how to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks so much, Ollie.
That's all right. Where is that button?
I think if I do it.
There we go. I got it. There we go. Over to you, Julie.
Perfect. All right. So today I'm going to be taking you guys through a quick introduction of how to use Abacum for planning. Please feel free to drop any questions in the chat box, and we'll try to go over as many as we can at the end. So for this session, I'm going to focus on how Abacum can be leveraged by finance leaders such as yourselves and company executives to get an overview of the business. Then we'll put everything into the context of annual planning. As you know, it's November. A lot of you guys are right in the middle of that cycle today. we're going to put that into context by showing you how to do revenue scenarios and headcount planning within Abacum. All right, so before we go through the CFO dashboard that's in front of you right now, I just want to take a moment to highlight some of the key sections within Abacum. So I want to draw your attention to the left-hand bar here. And at the bottom, you'll see a couple of icons, the first one being updates. This is where you get system notifications, like when data gets updated, as well as personal notifications, like if you're getting tagged in a task or a comment, so on and so forth. FX rates, as you guessed it, is where you get to manage your foreign exchange rates. We also do automatically pull most FX rates from central banks, so you don't have to do any of that manually yourself. Activity is essentially an audit log of all the changes, so you'll never lose track of another budget input or headcount request again. What's new is actually my favorite section within Abacum, because it shows you our latest product releases and updates. You can also directly comment on our product releases and help us really build, the product that you guys are looking for as well. You can see that we release very often, I think multiple releases in 2-week cycles. And finally, settings. This is where you manage your users, your user groups, and platform permissions. And this is going to be the same across all the companies that we work with. Now, going back up, this is where companies start to, bring in their own information. So we'll start with data sets. This is what Ollie was talking about, making sure that you have a single source of truth for your operational and financial information. So we integrate directly with a number of ERPs, CRMs, HRISs, data warehouses, or you can simply upload a spreadsheet. We also have a 2-way bidirectional sync with Google Sheets. So I know that's one of our very popular ones as well. The next is dimensions. So for those of you guys not familiar with the planning solution, dimensions are like categories, for example, country, city, department, account, vendor, so on and so forth. And dimensions allow you to create relationships between these categories and clean your data in a very effective way. So for example, if you have US in one data source and United States in another, you can then marry the two and then easily slice and dice your data that way. You can also aggregate countries within regions, aggregate departments within, or aggregate cost centers within departments, so on and so forth. And dimensions really helps with a lot of that data aggregation or like sum ifs that you're typically used to doing in spreadsheets. All right. So versions, this refers to different versions of the future. And while that sounds a little bit, science fiction, it simply means different versions of your forecast or budget. So these can be multiple scenarios. It can be, let's say, a pro forma budget that you eventually activate and turn into your finalized budget. All of these versions can be locked so that you make sure no one changes anything, and then you can also duplicate them infinitely so that you can very easily create new scenarios on the fly. Models, again, pretty self-explanatory. These are your underlying models or your underlying logic behind your business. So this can be a sales capacity model. It can be a revenue recognition model, a buildup of your cash flow, a buildup of your P&L. Essentially, the way that you organize Abacum is very much the way that makes sense for your business. So you can create, again, infinite models or like your key models and then connect them to each other. And finally, spaces, which is what you guys are looking at today and where we'll spend most of our time, because in the end, this is where you bring together all of your data and your models into a collaborative workspace between yourselves, budget owners, and stakeholders, which can, by the way, include external stakeholders like your board. All right. So we're currently looking at a CFO dashboard. First of all, this space gives you real-time metrics. So everything that's pulling in from your ERP, from your CRM, from your HRIS, And you can very easily look at the performance across the company, both in the past as well as the present, and then of course the future states. So in this case, we have a base case scenario, and we also have some projections into the future. So if you just go down the space, you can see that again, we're very big on mixing operational with financial metrics. So you have everything from your top line growth all the way down to additional go-to-market KPIs, payroll, headcount, and efficiency metrics like gross margin, so on and so forth. So far, like most of these metrics that we're looking at are pretty lagging in nature, right? You look at headcount costs. And I think one of the things that I really love about Abacum is being able to show the leading and lagging indicators in a single place. So in a nutshell, this gives you the key information as you as a CFO or finance leader really care about. Is like allowing you to analyze, why is revenue dropping or why is revenue increasing? What are the leading indicators to analyze the why? So for example, why do we have like a spike in MQLs in December? Why do we have this U-shaped pattern in our close won rates? And really each executive, not just the CFO, can have their own Abacum space with like their own relevant metrics. So if I think about how our company is organized, of course, our CEO, COO each have their own space, but, Ollie has his own space. Our VP of marketing has her own space, and same with product and our customer success team. And I think, especially as a lot of us are in the planning phase right now, having access to that real-time data, especially as we get closer to the end of the year, is really critical because we're able to make decisions and plans on fresh data instead of stale data. All right, so now let's take a look at the actual like planning process and how Abacum empowers you to work with the rest of your leadership team. And in this case, I'll be working with Ollie here to do some revenue forecasting. Okay, so within here, this is where I would, work with Ollie to create the decision or to decide on what the trade-offs are or the investments that we need in order to generate a given revenue growth. So in this example, we've organized our planning into 3 parts. First is a top-down, kind of like, very simple funnel metrics. Then we'll look at a bottoms-up sales capacity model. And then finally, a place to like compare the 2 situations. And to anchor this conversation, we have 2 scenarios, here a base case, and then here a bull case, letting you and your stakeholders evaluate the different assumptions and outcomes before committing to a final decision. We're also very big on, doing things kind of asynchronously. So of course I can have a meeting with Ollie and we can discuss this live, but also, I can ping him or just share the space with him and then move him through the steps according to, where I am in the process. So for example, he'll get a notification if I move it through to in progress, in which I'll allow him to actually edit the assumptions. And this way he knows that, okay, now it's time for him to edit his assumptions. Then, when he pushes it to review, I'll come in and review his edits, but he won't be able to change things in the interim. So we're really like creating not only permissions at like the data level, but also permissions in terms of like where you are in terms of the process. All right. So before we start going through the space here, I'd like to ask you, Ollie, now that you've joined Abacum for a couple months and have started using Abacum, the product, like how do you find it as a sales leader?
I mean, to me, it's being a sales leader. I've never been that sort of focused around numbers as much as I should have, because I find that Salesforce is often out of date or there's a problem somewhere, and the dashboards in Salesforce aren't actually giving you the right information. and then you've got to go somewhere else. So there's a few things that I've found amazing, apart from working with Beyonce Knowles and Bob Dylan as well. The things that I find is that it's all in one place, that I can go to. It's in one place is great for me because it's pulling from different systems. I think that the way to that myself and yourself collaborate, we have our weekly meeting, and then I use it for my weekly one-to-one with Julio as well. That we can collaborate in that space, but we can also sort of add notes and stuff as been a big impact on me. And the third bit is being able to drill down. And I'm not sure you showed this yet, but knowing when we're talking about what revenue is closed, that we can actually just drill down and go, well, it's these deals that have come in, and we can drill down what product have they taken, and you can keep drilling down, and it's giving you all the information you want in one place. Those three have been a bit of a game changer for me, that instead of spending sort of 3 to 4 hours a week trying to find the data and wondering where it's coming from, and then speaking to RevOps to say, can you also get me this report and find this out? We can sit there in under an hour, we can find out all that information and more that I need to run my business. So it's made a massive impact on how I work and how I think.
That is, of course, thrilling to hear. And I know the impact that you've already driven with us here. So I think Abacum was a huge part of that, obviously.
Obviously, no, it wasn't me. It was Abacum.
Yeah, but I think it's a great point, and thank you for pointing that out. Like the ability to really analyze your metrics, right, as you take those decisions. So really shortening time to decision for you is really critical. And I think this is where, finance really has the opportunity to become better partners with the rest of the business, because yes, we're driving to cash. Yes, we're driving to profit. But at the end of the day, like it's the operational decisions that then impact the bottom line for us. So like Ollie mentioned, with an Abacum, you can really bring in granular information from your CRM or from your data warehouse or from your ERP. So you can drill down and drill through into the prospect or the customer or the vendor. And again, all of these layers are really tailored to your business. So maybe you don't have, let's say, a basic and professional package. Maybe you're selling like actual products, so you want to see it by product line. Maybe your opportunity stages are completely different. So again, this is really tailored for you and the way that, forecasting for you makes sense. So in this case, our top-down forecast is quite simple. We're looking at, our 3-month rolling pipeline, and then applying a simple like win rate across the funnel. You can see here also, Ollie mentioned that it's really easy for you to like tag somebody within, let's see if we can find Beyonce here, tag Beyonce, our RevOps person, and say, hey, can you double check this number, this assumption? And they can come in here and, not only check the assumption, edit it, and give you a response right within the platform. So that's our very simple, like top-down forecast using the 3 months rolling pipeline. So that's the actuals. And then everything past 3 months, we just say, okay, let's apply a simple growth rate, because we don't have, let's say, a very great logic yet for predicting things outside of 3 months. So again, you can build like more granular forecasts with more top-down forecasts and combine the two into an annual forecast. All right, now let's look at the capacity model. So this is very common amongst our customers. You're always wanting to match like things that are coming through the funnel, but then also looking at your capacity or your inventory, so to speak. Do you have enough to actually reach the sales targets? So same thing, we're looking at our base case here, and very, very quickly you can see, okay, we're actually going to be a couple months short in terms of hitting our target if we just simply look at capacity. So we have enough pipeline, but not enough capacity. Now, Ollie, we're always talking about hiring and when you need to bring people in, but also your conversion rate. So when you see something like this, like where does your mind get to? Where do you think we need to push and pull the levers so that we can actually hit targets?
Well, I mean, best thing for me was if you reduce my target, but that's not going to happen. So it's more a case of how do we get to these targets? Typical sales leader. It's how do I get the resource for us to be able to at capacity hit these targets? And can we pull them forward from the future, or do we need something else? I mean, if the targets are there, you need the resources to hit it. So it would be that conversation that I would be looking to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And outside of, obviously updating the headcount plan, we have discussed things like, oh, can we push, quota attainment higher? Can we push quota higher? Even if that costs us a little bit more, or can we improve the ramping assumptions? So everything that you see here in blue is actually a manual assumption that, someone like Ollie can actually come in here and play around with and toggle around with to see how does that impact his forecast. So if we've agreed on quota and if we're pretty comfortable with an 80% attainment across the board, except for, let's say, slower, some seasonality here, then actually, like you mentioned, Ollie, you're probably looking to bring forward some hires. So you can see Ollie's already requested 2 hires for November. But if we're short on resources already in September, maybe it makes sense to already bring them forward into, let's say, July. And let's see where we land here. You can also see that not only are we looking at the sales capacity model in terms of, sales capacity, but also already going to be looking at the cost side of things, so that when Ollie does make this headcount request, we're also looking at how that affects CAC, how that affects our cash flow, so on and so forth. So let's see what happens if we pull forward a hire. Perhaps we hit our targets, perhaps not. So we do that. All right, so it moved up a little bit, but we're still going to miss August and September. You can see, like, at least in October, we'll be hitting our targets. So this means we have to do something different. I don't want to hire like 10 people just to hit August and September. So maybe we can work on the quota attainment in August and September, so that your reps are achieving more. This can be a special enablement program or some accelerators to really hit those August and September numbers. Now, I'm not going to go through the motion of updating the quota attainment because you get the idea. Essentially, plug in the new assumptions. And decide on what are the actions that we can actually do to increase that quota attainment during August and September. All right. So we also have the bull case scenario. It seems like the reps can do much better, Ollie. But once we compare the bull and the base, at the end, perhaps, you decide, okay, we actually need a technical salesperson to join the team, and this way we can, impact our August and September numbers and probably attainment across the board. So then again, we can also input another hire for the request.
Just something to add on this. One thing that, as a sales lead, I think sales leaders, we think of it differently. It's great to collaborate with people that are more numbers focused and stuff. But I love to go in here and go, okay, what happens if we increase our ACV by 3%? What happens if we can get our close rate or reduce our sales cycle by a certain amount? And playing around with those figures, it's like marginal gains kind of stuff, that if you can increase everything by 1%, where can you get to? But you can work out the levers that you can pull and what impact they have on your business. So, like, what happens if each SDR creates 1 more SDO per month? Then that it can tell us where we should be spending our time and what will have the biggest impact, which makes my job a lot easier when I'm thinking about how we go forward.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about, the what if scenarios, right? And being able to decide, hey, which one is more attainable and where should we invest to try to hit those scenarios. All right, so now we're going to close the loop with, in terms of headcount planning with our HR partner. And we're going to go into the dedicated workforce planning space. Here you'll see that it's only for sales and it's only requested. So Ollie, he can't obviously approve his own headcount requests, and he also can't add employees into other departments. But if I go into the workforce planning space, which is something that we've built for, our chief people officer, in this case, you're giving that head of people or your HR partner full visibility across the board in terms of, hey, how much headcount are we requesting across the board? How much is this going to cost us? So it's also useful for us, obviously, in finance to know like how much additional spend are we expecting throughout the company. And here you can see that I have the 2 requested headcount, not only from sales, but also the rest of the organization. And very easily I can come in here and update in terms of like the status, all of these headcount requests. So I can move our sales hires into accepted, or I can also just reject them as well. And once I save these changes, then they'll also roll up, like I mentioned, into our forecasted expenses, as well as our forecasted CAC and all the additional drivers that you have after that. For example, you may also forecast software costs with every sales hire like we do. And that will just, again, simplify a lot of the updates that you need to do to your models that, you have to just manually do in a spreadsheet. So everything again here is fully permissioned. So for example, here, the only person that has access to this space are those that I've invited into this space. And you also ensure things like salary information or bonus information doesn't fall into the wrong hands. All right. And then, okay, before we finish off, I know we wanted to talk mostly about planning today, but I thought I'd also share a little bit around board reporting, because I know probably come January, or if you guys do it, if you have a different fiscal year, this is probably a common thing that you guys need to do every quarter or even every month. And for me, I think, when at least previously, before Abacum, whenever we communicate things to the board, you kind of lose visibility around, okay, who's actually engaging, who actually has questions around your metrics. I feel like what's great is you can actually see like, who amongst your board members are looking at your information. They can comment within each section if you allow them to do that, like, hey, why is this scenario going this way? Or, what happened so that ARR grew, whatever, 3x instead of 2.5x. And when preparing the board report, you can also, again, interact with the team so that, perhaps your analyst is doing the preparation, but then as you go through, like, you don't share it with your board until the final report is approved. And finally, I know this is very important for us, at least, is the ability to lock things down so that anything that you've shared with the board, even if, you do an update in your ERP, or if you do an update, a last minute adjustment, everything that you've shared gets just frozen in time. Yes, and you can also very easily duplicate this entire space so that you're not having to like redo everything every single quarter, and essentially roll forward a board report. All right. So that was what I had for today. And just to summarize very quickly, thanks to Abacum, I'm able to run a much more streamlined collaborative planning process where budget owners are engaged. The founders come in here every single week to look at operational and financial performance. And I think especially in today's market, we are expected to be more data savvy, more operationally driven, and teams that are using spreadsheets for all of this, I think, will eventually fall behind. I'm not saying that spreadsheets don't have a place for ad hoc analysis. That's always going to be, useful. And in fact, you can also download most information into a spreadsheet yourself to do some ad hoc analysis. But with Abacum, you're really taking a front seat and helping the business take better data-driven decisions. And you're holding people accountable for their numbers, right? Because they're coming in here, putting in their assumptions. I'm discussing all these numbers within Abacum and like having this repository and this conversation with him, not in a Slack channel or not in an email, but rather in this kind of system of record. And ultimately, I think you can level up as a finance leader and drive your business to more success. So we've only scratched the surface. And if you want to learn more, reach out to us via our website, abacum.io, to schedule some time with Ollie and his team. And we'll open up now for a couple of questions.
There's one thing just to quickly cover. We help you through the change, but it may be a change for companies to go into a solution like ours. We have, and due to prove this with all of the reviews that we get on there, we have a very good implementation team. The way that we measure ourselves internally is to make our clients self-sufficient, and that's not that we're sort of not working with you. We work very closely with you so that the onboarding process is quite simple for you guys, but then you can do everything yourself. So it's not a case of, and we're not, as Julie said, we're not trying to take everybody fully away from the spreadsheet. People will still use them, but it's about how do we actually replicate your processes and what gets the same outcome in a much easier way for you that will save you time, and we will help you with that. Do we have trial version of the Abacum system, 30 days of trial? Unfortunately, we don't, because there's a number of reasons for that. The actual setup at the back end for us to do within the sales process, we can work with you on a sandbox, but there's two reasons why we don't just give 30 days trial for companies. First reason is because whenever a company joins us, we want to make sure that their data is set up. So that is a process that we take on at our end, that if we did that for everybody wanting a free trial, that would be tough. But what we do, as I say, a sandbox for a small part of the data. But because it's not Excel, it's not Google Sheets, it's not complex to use, but we will train our clients how to use it properly. But we can't just, if we give people the keys to play with, they will find it slightly different to what they're used to, and we'd want to make sure that we're using it properly. So we don't do it, but if you are in a process with us and serious about looking to implement our Abacum, we can look at a sandbox environment for you to help you understand what it would look like for you. Okay, any other questions at all?
I think someone mentioned that the chat was disabled, so they were using the Q&A. I have enabled it now, so that if you did want to ask within the chat, you're more than welcome to do so as well.
Okay. Or in the Q&A.
Yeah, or both.
All right. Well, we'll assume there are. What is the pricing model? So the pricing model is there are two parts to the two packages that we do. So one of them is basically around reporting, and one is for sort of looking forward for forecasting, etc., as well as reporting. So planning and reporting is the second one. Reporting is the basic product. Planning reporting is what more companies use because they want to do forward planning as well. The package that you take depends on a number of things, like how many people you want to have access to the system, how many stakeholders, how many integrations, etc. So we provide a package and solution around your needs, but we can talk about that in more detail. I mean, really, the smallest we do is 15. The biggest you can get to probably is around 60, 70. That's $1,000. So anywhere within that range, we would assume it will be in there. Okay. Any other questions coming in on the chat? There we go. Okay. Well, that's 5 seconds or so for questions while I'm saying goodbye. We can, if any do come in, we can stop and answer them. But Julie, thank you very much for the demo, and thank you very much everybody for attending. And if there are any questions or you need anything from us, please don't hesitate to reach out, and you will get a follow-up email from us as well, just to see if there's anything that you need. But thank you for taking some time to listen to us. The recorded session, will that be sent out, Julie? Julie is nodding her head. The recording session, session has been recorded.
So yes, it has been recorded. I don't know if it would be sent out necessarily. I think our marketing team would know better, but for sure it'll be available on our website. Okay, perfect. There you go.
Max is saying yes. I think that just one thing about with the recording are the solution is built for a number of different use cases. So we've only scratched the surface today in what we can show. So if it's something that where you're looking to solve a problem within your business, I would urge you to speak to someone within my team, because we can talk you through the process, the thing that you're trying to solve and the use case specific to yourself, or use cases specific to yourselves, rather than just let you have something that's quite general. So don't hesitate to ask my team for something that's a bit more specific and we can talk you through it. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we will be speaking to you soon. If there's anything you need from us, just let us know. But thank you. That's goodbye from me.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ollie. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.